What's the cringiest / worst examples of butt kissing you've seen at work? I called my boss by his first name when I started out, and my coworker scolded me after he walked away saying no, you call him Mr. So and so. She'd also always go out and buy him his lunch, like he cut your maternity leave short and he underpays you. What's in it for you? The worst was a guy I worked with at my last job doing HVAC, because the boss was going to get a full report on whatever crew he worked with that day. If you said something negative about the boss, he was going to tell. If you were a minute or two late coming back from lunch, he had a pic on his phone with the timestamp. If you didn't hang something perfectly level or straight, he'd toss a level on it, snap a pic, send it to the boss. He also came in every Sunday and washed all the trucks, with no pay, to make sure we kept a good image. Found out eventually it had nothing to do with the job. He was just dating the boss's daughter, and he was trying to prove himself. I work with a woman who threw a baby shower for a manager's, not her manager though, wife, thrown in our office. Meanwhile, her equally pregnant friend in the office was invited to the party, but received no shower of her own or even an acknowledgement from the suck up. Funny thing is, everyone hates the manager, so nobody really stayed longer than they had to. Also, she tries to call us out for not getting gifts for the manager on National Bosses Day, as if him being paid more to fuck things up for us isn't enough already. Coworker would talk up the boss during meetings. Mrs. Boss, you're the smartest person I've ever known. I wish I had some of your brains. Not a specific one, but I had a colleague we nicknamed Ankles cause that was all you could see sticking out the boss ass. That's probably an incorrectly used apostrophe. A colleague tried to feed the manager during lunch saying just one more bite please. Both female but still, was so embarrassed to witness that. Guy at my job would counteract his shitty performance with ass kissing. It helped him keep his job for a very long time, until he told someone to fuck off on a recorded call. Other receptionist at my work is a huge ass kisser. Calls herself head receptionist when she's really just a part-timer that doesn't do her job right. Will constantly have meetings with the bosses and take credit for things other people do. Most recent example is when a client brought us donuts and left them at the front desk. I was in a room, but heard the convo between the client and her about the donuts being a gift. Then heard her walk to the back and announce to our boss that she, receptionist, ordered them donuts because they work so hard. Fake laughter at the boss's jokes, laughter that goes on for way too long, so that even the boss notices and gets pod. This fucker at my work was just promoted because he's an ass kisser. Constantly jumps over people to perform a task, but only when the manager is around. That kind of crap. Recently, he wrote on our manager's door, he has a dry erase board for messages. Manager's name is the greatest. Fucking cringe. I hate this dumbass, and I respect my manager less for falling for it. I had a coworker that went to the boss's apartment to massage his feet. My boss sent me out to get her boss a birthday card and gift, which was all fine and good as it meant an escape from her for an hour or so. The card was nothing out of the ordinary, but the cake was very fancy and not your typical office birthday cake. I then had to swing by Tiffany's to pick up the bracelet that was the actual gift, just from her to her boss. Expensive gifts to colleagues, let alone managers, were not the done thing there, and it wasn't even like it was a bank or anything high-end, so it seemed horribly out of place and blatantly butt kissing. This was actually pre-work. Canada's largest airline had an unqualified secretary screening the applications for pilot positions. She would determine who got interviewed and who got put to the bottom of the pile. Some guys would send her chocolates, literally, and get an interview 2 days later, where others had waited years. Others would send flowers. It was close to criminal the way she got bribed, and there were a lot of examples. She was finally heavily demoted for her actions, but she should have been shit canned. I had this coworker at Target that would go on the biggest power trip for no reason, whenever he was on guest services. Guest services is the people usually at the front of the store, where you do returns and stuff like that for anyone that doesn't know. We all would alternate doing it, and it was usually with the manager. There's literally nothing special about it besides that it was slightly more tolerable than being on a register. Whenever said coworker would be on guest services, he would think he was manager and was the most unbearable person for the hour he would be doing it. One shift I was walking to the bathroom, which you had to walk past guest services to get to, and he went out of his way to loudly ask me where I was going in that managerial tone I'm sure you're all familiar with, as if he was a manager. I just looked at him and kept walking. He would do similar things like that to everyone, and it was just the cringiest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen someone become such a kiss ass because they did a slightly different role from everyone else for an hour, and everyone did guest services like we literally just alternated throughout the shift. My fucking manager, holy shit. He is head of our engineering department, takes credit for everything when reporting to directors, overpromises on results and timelines without knowing how long things actually take. Best experience I've had. We had a financial year-end meeting, and I'm in charge of compiling all production figures and creating a clean report. Even went out of my way to produce some stats to see how we can evaluate ourselves and improve what we do. This fucker starts presenting this thing with me in the room saying this, and I derived it like that. The director asked him a question about one of the datasets, and he did not know, and sat there blank, so I just spoke up and explained how I did it. Could see some other people around the table were choked up. Best damn feeling. The worst bit of bum snorkeling I've seen is someone going to their new boss's house to put up their Christmas tree. At my job there was this guy who kept buying his direct supervisor lunch every day. One time the supervisor asked him why he kept doing it. He responded with "the king's gotta read everyone in the immediate area." Cringed super hard at that, including the supervisor. What are your stories? Happened recently at work. One particular coworker is almost insufferable with his behavior. Constant trumpet blowing with his lackluster work, endless comments about how much money he has, degrading other team members to get some kind of moral high ground and get in good graces with management. What's more cringe is his posts and interactions on the team member WhatsApp group. Really fake or cheesy crap that definitely is not his character at all. Basically everything that he does involves trying to shit on someone to look better at his job. Anyway, he thought he was top shit after one of the managers recently left and applied to take the advertised duty manager role. He was shut down almost immediately, and apparently one of the night managers straight up told him that they did not want him to work nights due to nobody wanting to work with him. Coming in on a weekend without pay to help the company/boss, and ends up being an ongoing routine. As a blackjack/craps dealer in a casino, I had a floor manager that hated me. The feeling was very mutual. One day I was secret shopped and received a 100% with some outstanding personalized comments on it. The higher ups were so impressed that the head of table games came down from on high to give me 50.00 worth of cash gift cards. Unheard of. We normally get 5.00 buffet vouchers. This all took place in front of the floor who hated me. The SAR reaches in his pocket and hands me a card for an entry into a drawing for a 10.00 cafe credit and tells me I did good. Fucker used my 15 seconds of fame to make himself look good to the debt head. It kinda backfired when I handed it back and said no thanks, I know you don't mean it. Debt head hauled my ass upstairs and asked what I meant. I didn't need the job, so I unloaded every single instance of harassment, sexual harassment, our investigations, and backed them all up. Covered hit while he was suspended, and he was not invited back when they reopened. My immediate supervisor and I were doing a job off-site at a partner company's lab, like an hour's drive from our company, and we finished our task at like 4:30, and I was like, fuck it, let's end the workday. He insisted on calling the director and inform him we were done working off-site and ask him to officially give us permission to go home a half hour early. The director was like, "You called and bothered me to ask this? Just go home. Seriously, you two are out in the field because you're supposed to be able to make decisions like this on your own." The girl my boss hired to help me and I trained started having an affair with the second in command. For the next year I got to watch her feed him fruit with her mouth while doing almost nothing all day. She would go on to our lunches, got promoted, a raise, and I had to continue to take the load of the work she was initially hired for. Blowing the CEO in the conference room, which has a huge window in it. However, no butt kissing was involved. I used to work with a girl who would always change her voice whenever she would interact with our boss to try and seem sexy. Her voice would literally go up several octaves in tone and she would adopt this valley girl type of inflection. If he wasn't around she talked completely different. I heard so many people trip over themselves to say WEREJSTSOTHNK-FULTOHAVJ at the beginning of the pandemic when my old company was slashing benefits, pausing raises, conducting layoffs, requiring 12-hour shifts, all while members of the executive team were taking Zooms from their second homes. Seriously. Literally any complaint or negativity was met with that line. There were a handful of times when leadership got called out on a lie or a hypocritical statement and some middle manager would spring into action to defend them. Having a job is great, but don't sell out your dignity so some rich tech brothers can get richer. Glad I got out there.